Hey everyone, good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to show you how to make a pulled pork using a pork shoulder joint. You can also use this recipe for pork ribs or other kinds of ribs if you wish. So I'll take you through the ingredients. We have around 40 grams of soft brown sugar. It's got to be brown sugar. In terms of spices for the rub, I've got half a tablespoon of garlic and onion powder. I've got half a tablespoon of chili powder or cayenne, half a tablespoon of salt, half a tablespoon of black pepper, and a heaped tablespoon of paprika. I'm using normal paprika, but you can use smoked if you like. I have here a 1.5 kilo shoulder joint, which has been sitting in the fridge. So I've just taken it out. So first things first, we need to take the shoulder out of there. So I'm just going to put some of that down, simply because when I open it, there's going to be some meat juices come out. So take a knife or some scissors, and we just want to put a little slit in and get the plastic off. You can go for smaller joints, you can obviously go for larger joints. This is quite a large piece. It's going to take a number of hours to cook. So I'll just get rid of the juices. So this particular joint will take several hours to make. I am going to make this slow on the barbecue. You can make it in an oven. So the temperature we want to look for is 130 degrees Celsius, and we are going to keep it on a low temperature for about 3 to 3.5 hours. And once 3 to 3.5 hours have passed, we're going to take it out. We're going to take some apple juice and wrap it in some foil, return it back. Very important you have a temperature gauge, because we want to get the interior of this, or the inside temperature rather, to 97 degrees Celsius. And then at that temperature, the meat should pull apart quite nicely. So we have the meat here. I'm going to get a little bit more raw, and I'm just going to pat it dry. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to cut that fat off at the top. Some people keep it and make crackling out of it by drying it out, bit of salt. So now that we've got our shoulder joint ready, let's mix the rub together. Now, the rub, you can obviously make a greater quantity and keep it, but I've made just enough, and maybe a little bit too much for this particular shoulder joint, but it's not to worry. We can always keep it, if you make too much, in a container. Always keep it in an airtight container. Doesn't need to be in the fridge, it's only spices after all. So we've got a really nice colour here, and the sugar is so important to get that nice taste and texture on it. So if you're making this with a barbecue, I also recommend adding some wood to it. So I'm going to use some apple wood. So I'm going to soak some wood in some water and use that on the barbecue. Okay, so we've got our spice rub there. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to firstly move that bit of string, and I'm just going to take this fat off. You don't need it for this cook. Just be careful. Obviously, if you're buying this from a butcher or similar, you could ask them to remove this, save you the hassle. Leave a little bit of fat on the top, don't take it completely off. So I'm not going to throw this fat away. As I said, I'll make some crackling out of it. So we'll keep that for later. A little bit of fat left on the top. So, oh, look at that. It's actually come apart in two pieces. Quite common with meat, so it's not to worry. I'll probably put some string back on that to keep that together. And then a little bit more fat at the bottom here. I'm just gonna get rid of that little bit of fat. There we go. Right, so I'll take the rub and massage it into the meat. I've now probably not got enough rub because of this extra piece that's come off. Now you'll see the rub is going all over this chopping board. That's why I put a chopping board down, guys, because you don't want to waste any of that rub. Once the rub's on the meat, ideally you want it kept in the fridge overnight. You need to cover it with either put it in an airtight container, or you want to use some cling film or something to keep it airtight. You do not want it just sitting there because the meat may go bad. And you can see already we've got a really nice colour already, and that's from the paprika. Hence why there's quite a bit of paprika for colour and flavour. And you want to get the rub into every bit you can get. So I'm just using this quite sparingly so I don't run out of rub for the meat. Actually, what I'm going to do is, rather than trying to combine this together, I'll cook these as two pieces. This one should cook a lot earlier. A little bit of stubborn fat there, get rid of that as well. There we go. So I'm just using the meat to pick up the bits left sitting around. I think we're good in terms of the amount of rub. So that's picked up the rub very nicely. So I've nearly finished my rub. It's going to go in the fridge, and then we will cook it. So I've just cleaned up, created quite a bit of a mess, still a bit on the side here, but there's the, that's what it should look like. So that's going to go in some cling film. It's going to go in the fridge overnight. Tomorrow I'm going to take it out of the fridge, and then once it's been taken out, I will leave it to get to room temperature first. That's very important. Then it's going to go on a barbecue, indirect cooking, 130 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to cook it, or rather smoke it on there with some apple wood for at least 3 hours. I'm then going to take it off the barbecue. I'm going to wrap it into some foil with some apple juice, turn it back into the barbecue, indirect again, 130 degrees, and I'm going to keep it at that temperature until the internal gets to about 97 degrees Celsius. Any lower, it's not going to pull. I'm then going to use some barbecue sauce, which I will show you later on, and then it'll be ready to eat. So this is the setup on the Kamado barbecue. So I've got a deflector plate at the bottom. I've got a foil tray with some hot water in it. I've got a temperature probe for first meat, second meat, because I'm anticipating this one to be cooked quicker. I've got one to measure just the ambient temperature, and I've got the vents on low, so I should keep it about 130 degrees Celsius. So that's about to go in now. I've also put a bit of wood in, so there should be lots of nice smoke appearing out as well. So just close that. So the vent is on half, and if you don't have a barbecue, don't worry about it, or if you don't have a Kamado, don't worry about it. You can put it in the oven, 130 degrees Celsius. Not sure if you can see that, but lots of nice smoke coming out, which is the wood burning. It's apple wood I'm using, it smells really nice. Look at that, really nice colour, smells fantastic. So I'm going to remove the pork shoulder and we're going to wrap it with some apple juice and put it back in. So I've taken some foil, two pieces, so 4 pieces in total. I'm double wrapping it because just in case you have a tear, you don't want all the juices to run out. It's happened before to me, so always recommend double foiling. Even if you have thick foil, double foil. So I've got a little carton of apple juice and I've got some clear honey. So if I take the first bit of meat, which is here, about there, and the second piece of meat, which is here. Notice how I've left the probe in there. And then what I'm going to do is just going to put a little, shall I use a knife, put a little hole in the top of the apple juice, and then I'm going to create some sides on the foil. Put a bit of apple juice in there. There we go. Be careful you don't rip the foil with the probe. And then same again with the other one. Oh, it's a bit hot. Use the tongs again. And then some apple juice. So I probably did majority of the juice in the larger one because it's obviously a larger piece and less than the smaller one. I'm just going to use the entire carton. Obviously you don't need to use a little carton, but you need a good amount. And then I'm going to take some honey, and then I'm just going to put some on there, and that'll just give a really nice sweet taste to it. You can put whatever you like in here. Some people put butter in, some people put beer in, some people put fizzy soda in, or pop as we call it in England. Seal that up. Now, notice how I'm leaving a little bit of a gap at the top here and here. That's on purpose because you want it to have a little bit of aeration. So that's ready. It's going to go back into the barbecue again. I'm going to crank the temperature back up to 130 degrees, and then we'll see how we get on. My thermometer is beeping because one of the smaller bits of pork, this one, is done. So I'm just going to get a tray and take it out. The key to it is to let it rest for half an hour. So that's all we're going to do. Temperature probe should come out straight away, nice and easily. Have a little peek. See the juices there, and that should be soft to touch. Oh yeah, it is. So that'll be wrapped half an hour. The temperature is still about 130, which is good, and the secondary says 82 degrees, yeah. So we've got a bit to wait on that one, and then we'll be able to serve. On the previous take, the larger piece was at 82 degrees. It's taken nearly 40 minutes to get it 84. That is called the barbecue stall. Perfectly normal. You've got to be patient, you've got to ride it out. It's very, very common. If you Google it, you'll see lots of people have the same issue. So just be patient. If you find your temperature is static, it's 84, so plow on till 97, and then the big one will be done as well. So been about 4 or 5 hours since the initial start of the cook. So the meat has been resting. It's reached internal temperature of 97 degrees Celsius. It's rested for half an hour. I've been sitting in the foil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the pork next. So I've got here some Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. I've just got a container to keep the pork in. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. Start with a little piece first. If I open it, you should see lots of juices at the bottom. Yeah, lots of juices. So what I'm going to do firstly is take the meat out. And you can either keep the juice to make a sauce or whatever you want. So I've got these, which are used to shred the meat. If you don't have these, you can use just a couple of forks. So I'll just use this to rip it apart, and it's coming away really easily. So actually these aren't working for this small amount of meat, they'll work on the other one. Just going to use 2 forks instead. There we go, coming away really nicely. So what I'm going to do is, I won't bore you with the whole process, put it in there. I'll shred them properly whilst in there, and then I'll take this one out. Again, lots of sauce at the bottom. Put that to one side. I'll use these. So this one's a bit warmer. The other one was sitting for a while, so it would have been a bit warmer. It's pulling a lot easier. There we go. Really nicely pulling that. So again, I'll transfer it to the bowl. I'll finish off the pulling in there, and we'll put some sauce on it. Have a little bit of a taste. Very nice. Very nice. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this sauce left over. I'm going to put that over the meat, and then I'll put some barbecue sauce on it. So that's all the meat in the bowl pulled. with the juices and sauce from the cook. And I'm just going to put a little barbecue sauce. You don't need a lot because there should be plenty of flavour from the cook itself. So I'll just fold that over. And then once that's done, I'll put a bit more sauce on and ready to serve. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, please. Please share and like any recipes you may see, and of course if you use them, if you've got me on social media, Cooking with Rishi, please tag me.